Welcome to the Emporia Public Schools podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Anderson Harder, Superintendent. This podcast is our way to provide students, staff, parents, and community members easy access to information on a variety of topics. Once you've listened to an episode, we encourage you to use the electronic link to provide feedback or ideas about the episode to which you just listened to, or to share ideas for future episodes. Today, we are visiting with Mr. Cory Nicolet, Director of Maintenance and Grounds for Emporia Public Schools. Welcome, Cory.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for being here today. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to work for Emporia Public Schools.
After college, I started out in public safety, worked for the sheriff's office, and then as a volunteer firefighter for several years. And then I started a small landscaping and construction company while in public safety. After that, I went to corporate America for a short term and then got hired on here as the director of maintenance.
Awesome. Talk to us a little bit about the responsibilities in your new position.
So I oversee several people, and within that, I'm responsible for a lot of the buildings, or actually all of the buildings in the district. And that includes everything from the concrete out front to the grass being mowed, HVAC, electrical, and anything that comes up, construction projects that may be included. So it's pretty much anything to do with the nuts and bolts of the district.
Awesome. And when you came in, we were right in the middle, or kind of maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the bond construction. So you jumped in both feet. So how was that transition?
The schools that are ending has been a little rougher for me just because I wasn't in the beginning planning stages. A lot of it's just, does it seem acceptable? My predecessor, what he agreed to, we're running with that on all the decisions because that's already been in the works. So it's a lot of just quality control on the projects that are winding down and making sure that the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And then on the new project coming up, I'm a lot more on the ground floor of that.
Yeah.
So that'll be a lot easier on some aspects to know at the end if it's supposed to be the way it is or if it was supposed to be some other way.
Right. So that new project, William Allen White, will be our last one, that elementary school. And so we just met yesterday to talk about the kitchen appliances and just what that's going to look like. And then we had our phasing meeting earlier this week. You want to talk a little bit about just how you see that, how you're stepping in and as we're getting everything ready to go with William Allen White.
It's good to be more on the ground floor of it. Instead of just reactive to the problems, I'm able to be proactive and plan things out a lot better than these ones we're finishing up, where I've come in at the end and didn't even know about it till I got this job as far as the details of it. So this one will have things planned out better, that I can be a lot more proactive in getting things moved, things prepared, so that the transition's hopefully more seamless.
Absolutely. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had the same experience. So I came in right when things were already starting with Emporia High and some other projects. Walnut Elementary, I think, was the other one, and Jones Early Childhood Development Center. So, yep, it's hard to get up to speed sometimes. How does your responsibilities or your experience from your previous positions, how does that help you with your current position?
Most of my experience is in on-the-fly problem solving, and really that's what I do a lot of here. If I'm not problem solving, I'm dealing with people. Vast majority of my job is either problem solving. Sometimes you get a head start to try to plan it, but most of it's a phone call or an email or a work order that something's needing addressed sooner rather than later. And then the other side of it is, like I say, I oversee a lot of people, and then I get asked to assist with personnel issues from the various schools because we have so much overlap in duties between the custodial staff, maintenance staff, and the contractors that work on the sites.
You might talk a little bit about the difference between maintenance and custodians. So custodians that are out in the buildings, and then maintenance that really serves the district as a whole.
I directly oversee 12 people right now, 9 maintenance techs. I have 2 floater custodians and a secretary. And the floaters are to help the schools out when they have shortage in custodial staff. Right now, the custodians are all assigned to individual schools or buildings, and they take care of the day-to-day cleaning and filter changes, issues that may come up. If a water fountain starts leaking, they can possibly address it or at least turn the water off to it so it doesn't become a bigger problem. The maintenance techs are more in-depth, fix the problem, take things apart, replace with new parts, stuff that's going to take more than a few minutes. So the floater custodians I have go out when there's a shortage, or if we don't have a shortage, they just go out to help supplement. And that hopefully allows them to get more of the filter changes done and kind of some of the bigger projects that custodians don't do daily, but do need to be done monthly or biannually or something like that.
So one of the challenges previously was filters being changed, like having a reminder for custodians to change different filters. So what do you have in place so they just have that reminder?
Right now, we don't have a lot in place. That's the project I'm actually started working on, is I'd like to get essentially a tech book for every school that the custodians would have in there, the daily duties, the weekly duties, the monthly duties, quarterly duties, biannually, and then annually, because that would cover everything that we do. And then I'm going to have a sign-off sheet where when they do, not the daily and weekly, but the monthly duties, that way if we have a fill-in or a floater that fills in, they don't duplicate. We don't want to replace things that were just replaced because they didn't know any better. So that'll help with the accountability and making sure it's done and making sure it doesn't get done twice when it's not needed.
Well, that probably helps as we have like any turnover with custodians or maintenance, then they can just pick right up where the other person left off.
It should be helpful for everyone, including the administration at the schools who may not have a background in custodial work or an understanding of really what needs done. This should take most of the mystery off the table, whereas everybody can just go to this binder book that will have everything in it. And then everybody's on the same page.
Well, I will tell you as a former principal, yes, that will make a huge difference, because sometimes that question would come up about, what about this filter or what about, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't deal with that. So that will help be very transparent and a great communication system. So thank you for doing that. So we talked a little bit earlier about William Allen White Elementary as our finale. So we still have quite a ways to go with bond construction because we haven't even actually started. They finished abatement. We have the phasing, getting ready just to get everything started. So how do you see that, especially now that you're on the ground floor, how do you see that just playing out?
The next stage is the abatement of the floors, which have to be ripped up. So here in early spring, we'll be doing a lot of movement to facilitate that. The goal, I think, is over spring break to try to get a lot of that started. And then once that starts, things will be pretty quickly in motion. Not much slowing down. There's multi-phases through it, but that's going to be the start when people are going to start seeing things. And by then, the soccer field will be a parking lot for construction to use. That's going to be going into place. So people are going to start seeing things pretty soon, and then shouldn't have any gaps. There should be, once they start, it should just continue on until they're done. The new multi-purpose room is one of the last things that's going to go in before the kitchen gets moved. The kitchen is the very last thing. They'll still use the current kitchen through most of the construction. It's just going to be the summer of 2025 that they go through and we'll change the kitchen to the new location.
Right. And every elementary school, well, every school that didn't have a high wind shelter will have one. So that multi-purpose room will be that high wind shelter. So that will help William Allen White as well. One thing we learned, so before you and I was coming in the middle of that, Walnut Elementary and William Allen White Elementary are pretty close to the same age. And we found a lot of different issues in Walnut we want to make sure that we avoid in William Allen White. So they were very careful to do some checks, for abatement, things like that, and their timing of everything.
That's one good thing with McCown Gordon doing all of the bond projects is any issues they've come up with. At William Allen White, they're tying it into how we did things at other schools. I know I was there the other day. We were looking at the firewalls and how the ceiling joists were connected, and very little of it was something they hadn't seen before at one of our schools, and that's all fresh in their mind, fresh projects. So we're not starting at how do we fix the problem. It's how can we tweak what we did last time to make it a better product at the end.
Completely agree. And they are so focused on safety. And so when they do that, and that timing is really important. So they were very clear about that the other day. What would you say has been your biggest challenge so far to make sure that all the schools and district facilities are operating smoothly from a maintenance and grounds perspective?
I would be the biggest challenge at this point. We've got 17 different locations, and I hadn't been in most of them until I got this position 3 months ago. So, I'm walking in to fill the shoes of a guy who was there almost 15 years. He'd been in the buildings, he'd seen them. A lot of these projects had been done that he'd started and finished and restarted another time. I don't have that specific experience. So as I'm learning, things are getting better, but I just don't have that working knowledge yet for these specific situations to be the most efficient like I'd like to be. beyond that, our biggest issue is actually HVAC. We really need an experienced HVAC technician to be on staff because every one of these buildings has a slightly different system, and a couple of the buildings have two different systems that have been integrated, an old style and a new style. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, but that's what most of our calls are about. Just in the time I've been here, HVAC is the number one driver of work orders. So I'll get the experience, but we also really need the HVAC.
Yeah, and we've been recruiting for some time and just can't find that right person. So if any listener knows somebody with HVAC experience, send them to Cory. So
Yes, please.
we can look into that. So what about like any other big maintenance projects coming up in addition to the construction project?
So the biggest thing we've got is a new work order system coming in. The work order system we had before, our IT department was able to expand it to where it's a lot more usable now. But the new system should be just leaps and bounds beyond what we've got now. It will tie in every piece of equipment that we can input into the system so that if we go to that piece of equipment and have to work on it, we can look back and say, hey, how many times has this been worked on? And we can start identifying equipment that's problem equipment over just happenstance issues that are intermittent. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a big undertaking. I'm going to guess it's probably going to take about 2 years to get where you'll start with everybody learning how to input this work orders. And it'll probably be a year of just figuring that out before we even get into inventorying where we can have the history and everything. But that's going to be huge for us.
That will be huge. And you've been working with the technology department on that.
Yes.
To get that implemented, right? So it's hard to believe that you've only been here for 3 months and you've been working some really long hours as you've been catching up. And so very much appreciate you being here. As you're getting, your feet on the ground, what's your vision for your department?
When I pulled everybody in to do a one-on-one interview, when I'd first kind of started, across the board, accountability kept coming up. And I think you look at that on several levels. There's the individual accountability, which we all have to answer for. But the bigger picture is we have no accountability for how long has this unit been in place? How many times have we had to service it? What is our plan on replacing it? What are the expectations of various roles? I think all those things need more clearly defined per individual location, because I can write a manual for the district, but it doesn't mean anything if your equipment isn't applicable or has a different time frame it needs serviced or any other factor. So I think my biggest vision is try to set up an accountability on multiple levels for not only the equipment in the buildings, but for the people to make sure that we're being efficient and doing things the way they should be done.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. Is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't discussed?
Just that next summer we will be hiring for summer mowing crew. We didn't this year, and I think it really set us back on able to get projects done. Summer's a big time for maintenance to get projects done when students aren't in the buildings. So it's kind of our only opportunity. So if you're interested in either summer mowing, possibly some painting I've heard might happen over the summer, get with me, and probably March I'll be putting stuff out for summer mowing crew and some painting stuff. So if you're interested in that, just keep that in mind.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, and that was hard having that transition. Our previous person finishing in June and you starting in July, maybe a little bit earlier as that transition. But so I'm glad you're looking ahead for that. So we'll, get
Next
that
year
word
will be
out.
much smoother, I believe.
Yeah,
It'll be a lot better for everybody.
Yeah.
Not having a change in the middle.
And you will feel, just more comfortable because things that will be coming around annually, you'll feel like you know that it's coming, right?
Oh, yeah. In the 3 months, it's already gotten a lot more comfortable, but I still haven't had winter break yet over the school district. There's those individual experiences that you can't have till you've had them. Mm-hmm. And so, when I have my 1 year anniversary, I'll have at least checked all the boxes on, okay, I made it through all these times.
Yeah.
So it should just continue to get easier after that as I learn more. And hopefully by then I've implemented some of my plans to make things better.
Absolutely. Well, Cory, glad that you're here. Thank you for doing the podcast this morning.
Sure. Thank you.
We will end on our Emporia Public Schools mission statement. We engage, we empower, we inspire. Thank you for listening and watch for upcoming episodes.